What's up everybody, NFX here with another tutorial. In this tutorial we're going to talk about getting your kick drums to bump. And what does bump mean? Well, bump means boom and thump. You put boom and thump together, you got bump. So if you want bumping kicks, I'm going to show you a trick how to do it. Now I've been doing this for many years, and I do it so often that I actually, back in 2008, I had a VST plugin created called the Warbeats Kick Drum Enhancer that does what I'm about to show you. Now what I'm about to show you is going to be done with the parametric equalizer, and it's actually going to be a little more flexible for you to control the frequencies and the amount of or thump that you want to put. But it is a little more complicated, which is why I have this tutorial. Now you can go to the website and look for the Warbeats Kick Drum Enhancer if you want to give that one a try. That's fine too. But you know, I'm all about giving you guys information that you can use beyond, you know, going to my website. So this is for anybody who has a parametric EQ. You can use this technique. Okay, now in this particular project I have a pattern open, and it's got a drum beat loaded. And this particular drum beat, I've actually layered 3 different kicks together, and they're all routed to the same channel in the mixer. They're all routed to insert number 1. And let's just play. Let me just play the pattern through one time so you can hear the pattern. Okay. And what I'm going to do is, since I have the kicks all being routed into insert number 1, I'm going to add to that a parametric EQ2. Now some of you may have seen some of my other videos, my older videos, where I talk about mixing drums and using EQ to find the sweet spot. And this is very similar to that one. And by default, the parametric EQ has these 7 bands ready to be manipulated. Okay. Now what we're going to do with regards to the kick is there's a couple starting points that I usually go to. If I'm not using an 808 kick, which is a more long sustaining or long releasing kick, which you really want a lot of bottom end to it, which I don't have in this. What I do is I take the low frequency, or the number 1 frequency here, and I move it down to the end and I roll it off. See, that's what we call rolling off the low frequency, the very low frequency. If I play my kicks, you can hear the kicks still are there. It doesn't remove a lot from this particular sound because it's not using the super low frequencies that way. But the next thing you want to do is you want to take the number 2, and you can see right here it shows you the percent and the frequency, in this case 126 hertz Hz. Okay, so we want to move that down to about 90 hertz, and that's just going to be a starting point. And then I want to lift it up. I want to raise it up like this. But one thing I want to do is narrow the curve here. You can see this curve's kind of wide, and we can narrow that by using the scroll wheel on the mouse. We can narrow it or widen it. So what I want to do is narrow it to about 10% or so, maybe 15, but we'll start at 10. Now the narrower you make this, the more accurate you'll be able to find the right spot for the boom, because the lower frequency here at about between 80 and 90, maybe a little bit lower, but 80 and 90 is a good starting point. That's going to be our boom frequency. Now our thump is going to come in a little bit higher. And what I like to do is I like to take the 3 and just move it over straight across, and then the 4 is going to be used to control our thump. Okay, so we'll move that up, and again, it's a little too wide, so let's shrink it down to about 10% or so. Okay, so now that one I like to start at about 240, 250 hertz. So there we have basically 2 starting points, number 2 and number 4. Now number 3, I might lower that, bring that down just a little bit so that this white line in the center here, this dip down here, is kind of back on the straight line again. That's about where I want it. Okay, so now we've set the initial starting points. Let's take a listen. Now, maybe you can tell, if you remember how it sounded before, it's got a lot more meat to it. But what I'm going to do is, as I'm listening, I'm going to adjust this number 2 left and right, and you can increase it all the way up to the top so it's easier for you to hear where the frequency is that's going to give it the most boom. And you don't want to go too high, you don't want to go past 4, you don't want to go too low, so you want to kind of keep it in this low range here. But let's go ahead and sweep that across while we listen until we find one of the lower end frequencies that's going to make it sound better. See, down here I don't hear much difference, but as I sweep up, there it sounds really full. And the further up I go, it kind of loses that fullness. So I want to go back down. Okay, so that's about a good spot. Now I'm going to leave that there, and then I'm going to do the same thing with the number 4, but now I'm not listening for a booming sound. I'm listening for more of the attack of the kick drum, the thump of it. Okay, so this is the beginning part of that kick, the actual hit right away, and I want it to be kind of crisp and hard hitting. So let's start the pattern, and then I'm going to sweep it across, and again I'm going to lift this up all the way, just so that when what I'm listening for comes through more dramatically and helps me to find it better. So that's about where it sounds good to me, about 196. Now, remember, if you go too high, you're going to add some other noise to it that you don't want. And in kick drums, you know, are generally lower frequency instruments. So let me go back to about 190, 190-ish, whatever. And let me take another listen real quick. Now, there's not going to be a one right frequency for everybody. It's all how it sounds to your ear. And also, in this case, I don't have instrumentation going on. But if you have instrumentation, you may actually find that playing, adjusting these values with your instrumentation is better, because you're going to hear it in relationship to, like, the bass, for example, or some of your other instruments, where you'll find where it really sticks out better. So this should be done not in isolation, but within the context of your entire mix. But now that we've got a couple of areas that to me sound pretty good, I'm going to bring these guys down. I don't want them that dramatic, so I'm going to bring them down. Now the other thing you can do is you can widen them out a little bit, which will make it a little more natural sounding. If you find that it sounds a little too unnatural, that might be that your curve is too narrow. So I've just widened those out a little bit. Let's take a listen. Okay, now what I'm going to do is, now that's pretty much done. But the last thing you might want to do, there's a couple of more tricks that you might want to look at, as long as we're in the parametric EQ here. One of them is taking the high frequency, in this case number 7, and rolling it off a little bit off the top. And the reason why you would do that is because the kicks don't have a lot of energy up there, and you might as well just make sure that that energy isn't wasted on anything that isn't needed up there, like the kick. So if we listen, we don't really lose much by rolling that off. But listen to it and sweep, and you can find where you lose the least. But the more you can cut off the top, the better your mix is going to sound, especially with regards to some of the higher end instruments. And in that same context, we can look at maybe cutting some of the middle. And we'll take the number 5 and we'll bring it down a little bit. And then again, we'll kind of sharpen up the curve a little bit here. And we'll do it all the way down for the extra effect so we can hear it. But we'll cut it back a little bit. So right there it sounds good, and it actually helps to clean up some of the kick sound. It helps to bring it out in the mix, but we'll bring this up. And again, a lot of these adjustments you're going to do while everything is playing so you can hear it real time. I have to stop so that I can make sure that you guys can understand what I'm saying, in the tutorial. So that's why I keep stopping it. But that's about what we're going to do. Okay, so you can see it's kind of a funny looking curve. And again, depending on your source kick, you may have, this higher or lower. You may not even need any of these adjustments, but this is kind of something you can do to help you find the right spots. So let's take a listen to the drum pattern without our adjustment. We'll bring this in, and I've turned off that particular effect. So we're going to take a listen without, and then I'll turn it on. So this is without. Now with. Turned off. Turned on. So hopefully you can hear that in the video. Make sure you're watching this in high def. I should have said that at the beginning, but you'll hear the difference better if you're watching this video in high def. And that's really all there is to it. There's your EQ bass kick drum EQ tip of the day. And I hope you guys make good use of it and make some really bumping music. Until the next tutorial, this is NFX saying, I'll catch you guys later.